right, it's KP's Video News, and I'm gonna jump in real quick. Just a little recap of something that I had discussed uh, maybe a month ago, 2 months ago, and I was talking about a big meeting that all the rich people from all over the world had this big meeting. I mean, Bill Gates was there, Oprah Winfrey, and a lot of other billionaire people. And one of the topics that they were discussing, believe it or not, was population control. Fast forward to what's going on right now, what we have going on today with this coronavirus, and coincidentally, of all people, Bill Gates resigned from being the head of Microsoft the other day, and I'm scratching my head. So why would Bill Gates relinquish his leadership of Microsoft? And then I started noticing a pattern that it's a lot of CEOs and are just all of a sudden stepping down from these high dollar, high powered positions, and so I'm trying to figure out what's going on around here now. So, hey, not to be a conspiracy theorist, but when I ran into this article here, and it says to Trump, America is just a series of corporate fiefdoms. I'm going to read the story here, and then you judge for yourself. Trump is not known for telling the truth, but his usual blustery fictions occasionally allow some honesty. During a Friday press conference to announce a national state of emergency for novel coronavirus, I don't take responsibility at all, he said, of the government's slow response to the pandemic. Indeed, he does not. Though he announced a few new measures to address the crisis, including drive-through testing and the waiving of some restrictions on nursing home admissions and the length of hospital stays, Trump's announcement wasn't notable for its generosity. It was remarkable for a much less heroic reason. Trump's answer to public health emergency to enrich and empower the private sector. He used the occasion of his press conference to lavish praise on several corporations by name. The Swiss drug maker Roche, which received an FDA patent for the COVID-19 test, and Thermo Fisher, an American company that will partner with the government to provide tests. From there, the glad handing only became more enthusiastic. Trump thanked Google for developing a website upon which 1,700 of its engineers are reportedly at work. This is not quite true, as The Verge later reported. The website will be produced by a subsidiary of Google's parent company and will initially be able only in the Bay Area. Dr. Deborah Birx, who is overseeing the White House's coronavirus response, spoke glowingly of the government's innovative response, which is centered fully on unleashing the power of the private sector. That's great news for corporate executives, several of whom were present for the press conference. Trump paraded them before the cameras, calling them celebrities in their own right. Friday's event was as much an opportunity for Doug McMillon of Walmart to advertise the beneficent qualities of his corporation as much as it was for the public to learn what the president they elected would do to help them. Walgreens got a turn, and so did Target. The corporations kept coming. There was Becton Dickinson, who sells medical devices, and Quest Diagnostics, which processes lab tests. They were followed by Roche, by Signify Health, by LabCorp, by CVS, and by the mysteriously named LHC Group, a company Trump called a tremendously talented group of people. They provide home health services, it turns out, and will test the sick at home. The parade seemed like it would never end. Interchangeable men in suits said, as one, they were eager to help, to partner with the government to serve the American consumers. The spectacle was kind to them. Overall, it gave the impression that these charitable corporations would lead the charge against COVID-19 and not the government. When Trump denied responsibility, he referred to controversy over the government's flawed early strategies for handling the crisis. There weren't enough tests available and testing criteria was inadequate. Searchers in Seattle only uncovered the state of their local outbreak by going around the government and testing sick patients anyway. But it's hard to avoid reading another meaning in the Trump strange statement. He seems to deny responsibility in another literal sense. He's shifting the burden of public care from the government to the private sector. Trump's strategy will benefit the industry leaders who spoke during the press conference, but in practice, public-private partnerships aren't as successful as their advocates make them out to be. Corporations have one mandate, that is to make a profit. Let me read that again. Corporations have one mandate, and that is to make a profit. The government has a far different mission. Its objective is to serve the public, and the public's needs are unwieldy and expensive. The government's private partners tend to cut corners in order to cut costs. As the case of Maxim's, the private welfare contractor shows, not only does Maxim exploit its own workers in order to keep the profits high, its public partners have complained that it's not very efficient in processing welfare claims. It costs money to serve people effectively, and that's the unattractive prospect of private industries. Bloated government contracts sweeten the deal, but they do so at the expense of taxpayers, who subsidize corporations like Maxim's while the public welfare state shrinks. The president's dependence on industry is not a new feature of American government, as the case of Maxim shows. Even Democratic presidents have touted public-private partnerships as a way forward, as a means to inject innovation into the thunderously slow government process. But government is as ineffective as it's made to be by whoever is running it. Trump has made an ideological choice. Since taking office in 2017, he has siphoned money and personal resources from the federal workforce, which officials defend as necessary measures to reduce frivolous spending. That left the government ill-equipped to fight the public health crisis as it's at its door. As PBS NewsHour pointed out in a question on Friday, Trump disbanded the National Security Council's pandemic team in 2018. So, this was his response. I think it's a nasty question, Trump responded. You say we did that. I don't know anything about it. It happened, of course, and as the pandemic worsens, Trump might not be able to evade responsibility forever. A small government is necessarily reliant on private partners for help. Small government is weak by design. It cannot protect the public on its own. Americans must instead trust the intentions of Walmart and Target and Quest Diagnostics. They become something other than citizens, and consumption acquires political status. They are governed not just by the officials they elect, but also by corporate lords, each responsible for a fiefdom. We can't go back to the way things were, but our national recovery can go one of two ways. It can develop a social safety net that works, or it can develop to the private sector at the expense of the public. Only one of those options will backfire. So, hey, this is where we are right now. We got these people are making a profit. Now, I was trying to figure out, I said, what's going on here? They knew about this virus as one of my reporter in LA, Kaiser, had already stated that they know about this back in early January. And here it is, the middle of March, but they waited and for 2.5 months, and finally they declared a national emergency. However, it seems that in that 2.5 months time, they were able to line up all these private companies to instead of the CDC handling the tests and all that stuff. They got all these private pharmaceutical companies that are going to be handling the tests, and all these private companies like Quest and LabCorp that are going to be testing and all this stuff. So it's a profit to be made. So they had to go ahead and invest their money into these companies, such as Trump invested money into these companies so he could make a profit off of your misery, a profit off of this catastrophe. So this is a catastrophe that's being profitized. So pay attention, people. Pay attention. Wake up. Don't be stupid forever. Read and understand the facts of what's going on right now. They're making the money off of your suffering. Peace.